goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus, just like me.
As you watch or listen to this today, you're going to discover the exact bedroom mistake most serious men make and the truth about what it actually takes to fix it. When you start applying this right now, everything changes. We're going live, baby.
We'll do it live.
You're listening to the premier podcast for men who want to not only be better with women, but want to be better men in general. This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host,
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer.
Paul Bauer. He is a certified master life coach and NLP practitioner.
It's true. It's damn true. Happy Monday, guys. How the hell are you? If you are new to the channel, my name is Paul Bauer, and I help men level up and get better with women. And the funny thing about doing that is it tends to make us better men in all areas of our lives. Now, you put everything you have into your relationship. You do everything right, and she still treats you like a secondary option. It's a frustrating loop that a lot of men are secretly dealing with on a daily basis. The bouncer in your conscious mind wants to blame external factors or try twice as hard. But the truth is, your body is simply executing a framing loop running entirely between your ears. Imagine waking up tomorrow completely detached from performance anxiety, carrying an accurate prize frame that she reads instantly without you saying anything. Men who are serious eventually discover that changing this one mental state transforms how every single interaction in the bedroom is received. When you stick around till the end of today's episode, you're going to understand the exact steps to kill that uncertainty for good. What you'll notice before we finish is a complete shift in your paradigm. Now, today kicks off my series on my new book that I am holding up right now, but shall not be named until the 8-minute mark. Over the next few weeks, we will be going over the concepts in each chapter. And today, the chapter is all about having the mindset of a sexual Tyrannosaurus.
This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus, just like me.
That's right. Now, chapter 1 is titled The Mindset of a Sexual Tyrannosaurus. And the reason why I titled it that in the book is because of this line from the movie Predator. And what makes it sort of applicable to the red pill is twofold, right? One, this is a sound drop that Rolo plays on his channel all the time. And two, the legendary, the great red pill couch, Ryan Stone, his community is all around T-Rex, right? The T-Rex community, right? So I was like, okay, to add a little red pill sort of tongue-in-cheek humor to the book, I'm going to title the chapter this, okay? But that's what it is. Largely, if you guys read the book, and I encourage you guys to do so, whether you think you're awesome in the bedroom or not, right? There's always room for self-improvement. We're always trying to get 1% better every day. And the first 3 chapters in the book are all about what's going on up here, the psychology of performance, the psychology of what's going on in her mind, and the psychology of arousal. Okay. So, I mean, anyone can write a book on technique and positions and stuff like that, but very few go into what's going on up here. And what's going on in your head makes or breaks you in the bedroom. Women read your mental state the same way you read a bad situation before anything is said by anyone. They know something's off before anything happens, right? Like, women are very intuitive when it comes to this sort of thing. You might have heard it called women's intuition, right? Now, some people joke that if women's intuition was any good, there wouldn't be any single moms out there, but that's neither here nor there. The thing is that women are pretty good at reading body language and subtext and how you're feeling, but there's more to it than that, and we're going to get to it here in a second. But if you're anxious going into the bedroom, you've already transferred that onto her. She's feeling that. She's feeling your any kind of anxiety, any kind of self-doubt, anything other than absolute confidence, she's feeling that, and it's taking her out of the moment. You understand? So it's imperative that you have absolute confidence and certainty in the bedroom that you know what you're doing. Okay. Now, now what's interesting about this is that a lot of guys think they know what they're doing. And they have no clue that they're not doing things right. They think, just because they've watched adult videos or whatever, that women are screaming and yelling and stuff like that, that they're doing a good job. It's like a lot of women fake that kind of stuff to either protect your ego or to get it over with quicker. So you have no clue. And we're over the next couple of weeks, we're going to get into how to tell about that sort of thing. Okay. But if you're anxious going in, you're already transferring that to her. And now you're both in the wrong place before any of the fun begins. Okay. So the physical stuff matters. And we will get into that in the book and in the series about the book, but it's running on top of whatever's happening, what's going on in your head. Okay. We have this fascinating thing. And when I learned about this in my NLP trainings, I was pretty surprised by it, but it's pretty fascinating. Okay. We have this part of our nervous system called the proprioceptive nervous system. Okay. Now, a part of its job is to be able to sense things, like to know where your hands are in space without looking at them. You know what I mean? You have this sort of sense. It's also the reason why when you put your hand close to something, you can almost feel a sensation there without touching it. Have you noticed that? Right? That's your proprioceptive nervous system. It's your body's sixth sense, and it allows you to know exactly where your limbs are in space without looking at them. It also what's picking up feelings of eyes watching you. Like, have you ever got a sense that someone was looking at you and you're like, what is that? And you look and there's someone staring at you? That's your proprioceptive nervous system. Okay. It's pretty fascinating. It also picks up other people's emotional vibrations. Okay. This is why bees and dogs can smell fear. They aren't actually smelling it. They're sensing it through their proprioceptive nervous system. You understand? So, and it's weird because like our body has actually put out a field around us about 8 feet in diameter. And this has been studied by measurements and stuff like that. Okay. But people can sense that. They can feel that around them. That's why when you can, without people saying anything, a part of it's their body language and their facial expressions and stuff like that, but you can sense something too. Like you feel it in your body too, right? That's your proprioceptive nervous system. So anyone can talk about techniques, but if you read the book, you'll quickly find that most of the stuff that will make you better in the bedroom starts what's up here, so that you put off a vibe that she could feel that gets her more into the situation. You understand? Because you want to get her out of her head and into her body, and you can't do that if you're up in your head. You understand? So the first 3 chapters are all about mindset, frame, psychology, what's going on in both of your guys' heads. It's pretty fascinating. Okay. It's what separates the book from any other book on the sexual activities. We still can't talk like adults. Oh no, we can't. It's past the 8-minute mark. It's what separates other sex books you'll find. And the early reviews, if you guys go on Amazon, and I think we have at least 1 review on Audible now. They all talk about that. Like, oh crap. Like I didn't realize, like Paul's really showing you how to get into her head. Okay. And that's really what will make you a sexual tyrant, a goddamn.
This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus. Just like me.
Just like me. That's right. So, that's basically what we're covering today. Guys, if you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, hit those notifications. I do have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday without fail. Oh, we have a good sponsored video for you guys tomorrow. A guy wrote in on, he got it on Friday and he wrote in yesterday, I think sometime yesterday or maybe Saturday night. I don't know. But that's going to be a good one tomorrow. I think a lot of guys are going through that. The guys that work from home, dad, a work from home dad, and his wife is a stay-at-home mom. And I have experience with that because when I first started working remotely, I had to deal with a lot of that kind of stuff at home. So it's going to be a fun episode tomorrow. Performance anxiety is a framing problem. Now, I talk about performance anxiety, and obviously not all you guys have it, but enough of you guys are having it that it needed to be specifically talked about in the book. Because it's one of those things where guys, they have it, they know they have it, they're ashamed that they have it, and they don't want to talk to anybody about it. Because that's how guys are. Guys would rather bottle up their problems than find solutions for them, or seek out help for it. But we talk about it in the book about how to get over that sort of thing. But your performance anxiety, if you're a guy that has it, it's a framing issue. Okay. The second your brain decides that sex is a test that you could fail, your body starts doing exactly what you were afraid of, whatever it is, whether it's you're going to prematurely ejaculate, whether you're going to lose an erection or whatever. The more you're focused on that failure, the more likely it will happen. Okay. It's a framing loop. And so a lot of you guys don't even realize that you're doing it. Okay. So it's not a physical problem. So a lot of guys, especially when they start getting softer, okay, what they'll do is, because of all the ads on TV for Viagra and all this kind of stuff, is they'll go online and they'll go to Hims or Blue Chew or whatever. None of those guys are sponsoring this episode, but they'll go and get, basically a form of Cialis or Viagra to try to solve that problem, thinking it's a blood flow issue, but it's not. It's a lot of that's up here. A good way you can tell, I don't talk about in this book, but Eric Eberhard wrote a really great book a couple of years ago called Unleash Your Sexual Superpowers. And unfortunately, it's out of print. And which is one of the reasons why I wanted to write this and include a lot of Eric's techniques in here, because his book was fucking genius, right? It was such a great book. And the publishing company that he sold the rights to went out of business. And so it's out of print and he doesn't own the rights to it anymore. So I told him I wanted to write this book and I wanted to include all of his techniques in here. And I asked him to write the foreword for it. And he was like, oh yeah, 100%. So, well, actually he said, send it to me first to make sure that you're, the stuff that you're talking about is accurate. And then, yeah. And then he came back and goes, that's a fucking great book, man. Here's the foreword to it. But one of the things that he talks about in his book, because he's also a master NLP practitioner, and he was saying in his book that to tell whether you need Viagra or not is to tell what your base state is when it comes to erection. So imagine no one's around and you're all alone and you pull up a dirty video, you pull up the old hub on the smartphone and you get the lotion ready and you set a fucking can. I don't know, whatever you fucking weird shit you guys are doing. And do you get an erection? Do you wake up in the morning with an erection, right? That's your baseline state. If you can get an erection when no one's around, it's not a blood flow issue. It's a mental issue. You feel me, dog? Okay. Now, if you can't even get it up when you're by yourself, now it might also not be a blood flow issue. It might be a low testosterone issue, which I do cover in the book. Okay. But most of the time, a vast majority of the time, it's not physical. Okay. It's what you've tied your worth as a man to. It's that you've tied your worth as a man to a single outcome on a single night in that single situation with this single girl in this moment. Okay. So the fix isn't trying harder. That actually makes it worse. It's actually redirecting your attention completely off yourself onto her and focusing on the physical sensations in the moment. Okay. So a lot of our anxiety problems, it comes from being up here thinking about a future that might not happen. That's 99% of anxiety is envisioning a future state that hasn't happened yet and might never happen. Okay. That's where anxiety typically comes from. And so if you can get out of this and into the moment, you're less likely to have performance anxiety type problems. Okay. So wherever attention goes or wherever energy or wherever attention goes, energy flows, right? So if you bring your attention down to what the physical sensation is when you're inside her, when you bring your attention to, like her body is her clitoris aroused, stuff like that. If you could focus on that kind of stuff, her breathing, what's her breathing doing, right? You focus just on the attention or the moment itself. You get out of your head, and that will significantly reduce performance anxiety issues. Okay. Now, you've likely felt that exact moment where your brain starts treating the bedroom like a test, haven't you? For those of you in the live chat right now and everyone watching this replay later today, I want you to drop a comment and tell me, what is the number one mental distraction that tries to pull you out of the moment? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a performance anxiety type thing, but anything that you start thinking about. Maybe you're thinking about baseballs so that you don't accidentally premature ejaculate, right? Maybe you're thinking about I don't know, another woman or whatever because your wife is too fat and ugly. I don't know, right? What is the number one mental distraction that pulls you out of the moment? Drop that in the chat. And as you think about that, some of you are serious about getting my direct feedback on your specific situation right now. If you want to bypass the regular chat completely, fire your question over as a super chat. When you do that, it locks your situation at the top of my screen so we can dissect your exact framing loop before the show ends. So bringing your focus onto her, you can't simultaneously evaluate your own performance and pay attention to what she's actually responding to. They can't coexist. Your mind can't focus on two things at once. A lot of people think, especially women, they think that they can multitask. That's actually impossible. You cannot multitask. You can do one thing and then move over to another thing relatively quickly, but you can really only focus your attention on one thing at a time. So if anyone says, "Oh, I'm really good at multitasking," no, you're not. You're good at juggling. You're good at juggling, maybe, but you can't do two things at once. You absolutely can't. Now, you can't focus your attention on two things at once. You can, let's say you're a software developer, right? You can run a compiler and then move over and start doing something else. So technically, this is still working and it's a process you kicked off, but you're still doing the next task, whatever that is, right? So you're still not really multitasking. Okay. So when your attention is locked on her body, her breathing, what she's reacting to, there's no mental space left for being up in your head, worrying about whether you're going to be good or not, whether you're going to stay hard or not, whether you're going to, release too early or not. Okay. And this is a trainable habit. Every time you catch yourself watching yourself, thinking about stuff, getting into your head, pull that attention back to her. Okay. Now, a lot of this comes down to awareness. Almost everything I talk about on this channel comes down to awareness. A lot of 95% of what we do on a daily basis is subconscious. It's habit-based. We're running a program. Okay. We don't even realize we're doing it. This goes off the sex topic. It goes into relationship though. One of the brothers in the pack yesterday had an issue with his wife and he wanted to call her out on something. And so he's like, should I call her out? And I was like, well, how would you? How would you call her out? And I can't remember what he said. And then I was like, okay, what's your plan for her inevitable resistance to that? Because what his initial gut instinct to hold her accountable and call her out with was basically blast her with something really negative, and it was nothing that I talk about in my relationship books. I talk about stuff that I learned from, like when I say no, I feel guilty. You can be assertive without being combative. Okay. And that's largely what, when I say no, I feel guilty comes down to. It's assertive language where you're not getting up in your feelings. You're just saying how things are. Right. This is how it is. And so before he could reply to that comment about what's his plan, he blasted her ass with a text message. And of course, what did she do? She fired back because his comment was combative. And so she immediately fired back. And so he's one of those guys that's been in the red pill space for a couple of years now. Like he's used to spend a lot of time in the married red pill. And so he should know this information. He's read all the sidebar. He should know this stuff. But his subconscious programming, the habits that he's developed over years, still can't get over this stuff because he hasn't spent any time practicing the stuff. He probably knows it verbatim. He just has never practiced it, right? And so that's what I invite you guys to do, because the first step is awareness. Like he's not even aware that he's not using the tools that he has. He's just still reacting based on previous programming. Okay. So you got to first be aware that you're doing that. So, in the chat, one of the best things about Wolfpack is like, you put that stuff out there. You have a third party group that are, we have no skin in the game in your relationship. We can objectively look at your situation and go, okay, here's where you messed up. And so I pointed it out to him. I go, look at what you wrote there. It's combative. It's not assertive. It's angry. It's butthurt. That's what's coming across as. Okay. I was like, if you've read all the stuff. I go, if you know how to do fogging and negative assertion and negative inquiry and broken record and all that kind of stuff. I go, this is what it looks like when you say an assertive thing, and what his wife did was she left. She took her daughter and left him with the two younger kids. And he had a bunch of stuff he had to do. And he didn't appreciate that because now he's got to watch the two younger kids and he can't do the work that he needs to do. So what I said is, you need to say, when you leave the house, you need to let me know when you're leaving and let me know when you're planning on coming back so I can plan my day. You see, that's an assertive statement. It's not combative. And then and one of her barbs that she threw back at him was, look, I didn't realize I have to tell you where I'm going 24/7. So then you reply back with fogging, which is essentially agree with indifference. Okay. So you would reply to that with, you're right. You don't have to tell me where you're going 24/7, but you do need to let me know when you're leaving and when you're coming back so I can plan my day. Okay. That's fogging with broken record, which means you're just broken record is just repeating yourself. Okay. The more you repeat yourself, the more they finally go, okay, I got it. Okay, I got it. And then they're less likely to do it going forward. Okay. That's assertive communication without getting up in your feels and reacting and saying, I got a bunch of fucking shit to do today. Right. Like that's combative. You see the difference there? So a lot of that comes down to awareness and being aware of what you're doing in the moment. And the same thing happens in the bedroom. Okay. You've got to catch yourself when you're up in your head, worried about how you're doing, whether you're staying hard or not, whether you're going to prematurely ejaculate or not. Okay. And take your focus off of that and back into the moment on her. Now, there's some nuance to all this. I really want to emphasize this. There's some nuance to this, especially if you've read a book like No More Mr. Nice Guy or Dating Essentials for Men by Dr. Robert Glover. Okay. Because what I'm talking about is being strategic, not being a people pleaser. Now, a big problem with nice guys is that they're in the habit of people pleasing. Okay. So if you've been in the habit of always asking how she's doing and you're trying to put her pleasure above yours, that is nice guy behavior. Okay. It's validation seeking behavior. That's not what we're trying to do here. Okay. That's not what we're trying to do here. If that's you, if you've been doing that, you're always checking in on her. Like, you doing all right? You doing all right? Does this feel good? You like this? Like that kind of shit. And you're putting her pleasure above yours at all costs. You need to break that habit and become a more selfish lover for a while and just get yours without focusing on her to break that habit. Because what you're doing when you're people pleasing in that moment and validation seeking, you're actually putting her in her head. And now she realizes that her pleasure is now a performance issue for you. And it's about you being a good boy. And now she's like, oh shit. And now she's up in her head like, oh God, he's got to feel like he's doing good. Right. And now she's up in her head. You don't want her there. You don't want her up in her head. You want her in her body feeling the pleasure. This is a big reason why a lot of women don't have orgasms, because they're too much up here. Okay. You got to get them out of here and into their body so they can have an enjoyable experience too. It's weird. I put this kind of stuff out on social media, and of course, all the raging feminist liberals jump on that and they're like, you're talking about graping women. Like, no, not at all. There's nothing I've ever said ever that would lead a guy to sexual assault of any kind. Okay. You're projecting that onto me, but so where's your head at? That's kind of odd. That's kind of odd that your head goes there. But anyway, I digress. So you need to be a selfish lover for a while. If that's you, if you've been a people pleaser for a while, to break that unattractive habit, that validation seeking behavior, you do need to break that habit and just focus on your own pleasure for a while. Just get yours, bang the shit out of her, take yours. Okay. But once you've broken that habit, now you can observe what she's doing without constantly checking in on her and trying to be performative. Do you understand the difference there? There's a difference between, because you don't even have to ask her what she's doing. Everything I talk about in the book, monitoring her physiology, will tell you everything you need to know. You don't have to verbally ask her and get her out of her head. Just let her feel. Let her feel what's going on. Okay. Her body will tell you everything you need to know. Okay. Especially her little bean. I talk about that, tells you fucking everything. All right. Now, guys, as you sit back and you continue to process everything we've broken down today regarding the mindset of a sexual Tyrannosaurus, you might find a quiet wave of comfort watching over you, because for the first time in a long time, you aren't trying to figure out a complex system. Your breathing is naturally slowing down. Your analytical mind is beginning to relax, and you are simply locking your attention onto what it genuinely feels like to carry an unshakable prize frame. You already know what it's like to feel stuck in your head, running a loop of performance anxiety that completely drains the experience before it even starts. And you've likely realized that trying twice as hard never moves the needle. But as you listen to my voice right now, what you're going to notice is a sudden, powerful change in your internal certainty. Men who take their masculine sovereignty seriously eventually discover that they don't have to leave their relationship fulfillment to chance. When you grab a copy of Dick Her Down Right during this brief break, the very first thing you'll discover is how effortlessly the training manual steps turn this information into absolute muscle memory. And after you finish chapter 1 today, the path to becoming the man she genuinely brags about becomes completely obvious. Stick around. We're going on a quick break. And when we come back, we are diving straight into the brutal reality of performing versus actually doing. See you in a couple minutes. Have you ever had sex and honestly wondered, did she actually enjoy that? Or was she just going along with it? Because chances are she's had better and she remembers it. What if I told you there's a way to make sure you're the one she can't stop thinking about? Most guys think good sex is about stamina or size. It's not. The men women are genuinely obsessed with aren't the biggest or the longest lasting. They're the ones who know exactly what they're doing. They're not fumbling around hoping something works. They walk in with a plan. They read her body. They control the whole experience from the first move to the last. And when it's over, she's not thinking about sleep. That's not some rare natural talent. That's a skill set, and it can be learned. Dick Her Down Right is the no-nonsense manual that breaks down exactly how women's bodies and minds work during sex, how to take charge of the experience like you actually know what you're doing, and how to become the man she's telling her friends about. Not the guy she had an okay time with, the guy she keeps coming back to. The guy she'd do almost anything to keep happy because what he does to her is in a category by itself. Every technique, every approach, every psychological principle is laid out straight. No theory, no filler, just the real information that makes the difference between average and unforgettable. Dick Her Down Right is available on Amazon or Audible now. Any man who wants to be better in bed and have any woman he's with completely hooked on him needs this book. Get it today. Indeed. The link's in the description, and I dropped in the chat as well for that. So let's take a look at speaking of the chat. We've got Dar Fitness in the house. He says, happy Monday, gents. And so does brother Nathan. Happy Monday. Brother Kamal says, by the way, the audio volume of the Tyrannosaurus is very low. Is it? Let me listen to it again.
This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus.
It kind of, yeah, it kind of is. I can, it's turned up all the way on my soundboard here, but I'll have to go back and edit it, like, you know, before next Monday. I'll have to edit it so I can boost the volume on that. Darfin says, you mean I shouldn't flex in the mirror at myself like Christian Bale in American Psycho playing Susudio in my head? Well, that's what we're talking about next. So that's actually a perfect lead into that. Okay. There's is performing versus doing. Okay. So there's a version of bad sex that actually looks fine from the outside. It actually looks kind of fun if you're watching it on a dirty movie or something, right? It's technically correct. You're hitting the right spots. You're lasting long enough, but she in the moment can tell that you're not there. She can tell that you're playing something in your head. You're looking in the middle, you're looking in the mirror, fucking flexing and shit, right? She can tell that you're not in the moment with her. Have you ever been with a woman? Like, let's take sex off the picture. Have you ever been with a woman and you're in your head about work or whatever you're doing, and have a woman go, "Where are you right now?" Have you ever had a woman say that, or have you ever heard a woman say that? Because I've heard that, because I've done that. I'm one of those guys that I'm constantly in my head thinking about stuff, thinking about planning for stuff, thinking about all sorts of stuff, right? So it took me a long time, and it's still a struggle for me. Like when I'm with Nurse Chick, to be present with her in the moment and not up in my head, you know. And the funny thing is, bless her heart, she doesn't talk, so she talks occasionally, but she's genuinely pretty quiet. So a lot of times I'm thinking out loud. I'm just like saying stuff out loud that I'm just processing and stuff like that. And I don't expect her to be an active listener. I was doing this last night. You know, I was getting ready I was straightening the bed up, we're all getting ready for bed. I was straightening the bed up, and she's brushing her teeth, and I'm talking about God knows what. And I was like, I just stopped for a second. I go, you know what? You probably don't care about any of this. And she goes, no, babe, I care. And I go, no, it's not an indictment on you. It's just, I just had this sudden realization that I'm running my mouth right now. And I go, I just want you to know that I don't expect you to be an active listener. Right. So I was just letting her know it's okay if she's not paying attention, because I'm just fucking thinking out loud generally. Right. Well, a lot of guys are doing that in the bedroom in the moment. They're not thinking out loud, obviously, but they're thinking about other shit. Right. They're thinking about, like when you're in IT and you're an IT director and, oh shit, the servers are down right now. Right. Like you're thinking about all this kind of stuff. Like what happens if someone calls and it's 3 a.m, fuck. Right. Like you're thinking about anything other than the present moment. And women can just sense when your mind's elsewhere. Right. Cause you're not paying attention. You're not doing it. You're not doing it things that they're expecting. And, man, I was really bad about that. Not in the bedroom necessarily, but with when I was in my relationship with Red Pill Chick, because actually my ex-wife too, they would be talking about whatever and I would not be paying attention at all. I would just be like fucking think about God knows what. They're running their fucking woman mouths. I don't fucking know. And they would always get pissed, right? And they would say, what did I just say? And I'd say, huh? What? Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. Can you repeat that? And they would fucking be livid about it, right? That's the same kind of thing that you're doing in the bedroom. Your mind's elsewhere. They can tell when you're not fucking in the game. Okay. And that takes them out of the game. Right. So when you're performing, every move gets filtered through, how does this make me look? Right. Instead of what does she actually need right now? Right. Like you might have seen, and I've had conversations with Eric over this, right? And like I said, Eric Eberhard wrote the foreword for this. Eric Eberhard spent 25 years or so in the adult film industry. He's got a body count of over 5,000 at this point, and like over 4,000 of that was in videos, and he started at a time before Viagra, before robo penises and inflatable dicks and shit like that. And he said when he first started, there was 5 guys in the world, 5 that could perform with cameras in their face and camera crews and all that kind of stuff, and just be in the moment and stay erect and do what they needed to do. There was 5 guys in the world that could do that. That's why if you watch dirty movies from like, you know, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there's always the same handful of dudes in all those movies. It's because very few guys could do that in real life with that kind of pressure, like lights, cameras, you know, camera crew and booms and shit, like while you're doing the business. A lot of guys just can't do it. In fact, Eric was telling us he gave a lecture to the Wolfpack, and if you guys join the Wolfpack, that lecture is saved. He's done 2 of them for us now. It's saved in the pinned messages, so you guys could go back and check it out. But he was talking about how he was doing like a bang bus type shoot where they were going and they were grabbing real guys, real college guys, and taking them to a place to have sex with these you know, these female stars and stuff, right? And hold on, I gotta show someone the door here. And so he was so they would go pick up these randos to go bang these pros, and he was there to try to warm the girls up in case these guys could perform. And there was these 2 guys that they picked up one time, and one guy was like, "Oh, dude, I'm gonna give it to her so good. I'm gonna do all this stuff to her. And I'm gonna blow her mind. She's never had anything like this and all this stuff." And he was all bragging and all this kind of stuff. And when it came to the moment, he couldn't get it up. He couldn't get it up, right? And he said that happens so frequently that now in the industry, it's super common for all these stars to be on Viagra, to be on, you know, Cialis and all that kind of stuff, or they even get the inflatable pumps that that medically are inserted so they can, like, you know, press a button and inflate so that they can always perform on camera. But that didn't exist when he first started, right? I'm friends with Sterling Cooper. Sterling Cooper told me the same thing. He's like, there's all sorts of guys out there with all these, you know, with Viagra and all this kind of stuff. They just can't do it in the moment because of the pressure, right? So if imagine there's guys out there that have that problem when no one else is around. It's just her. But that's because they're worried about what she's thinking. They're worried about doing a good job, being a good boy, and all that kind of stuff, right? So you have to get out of your head with that kind of stuff. You got to stop looking at it like, how does this make me look? And look at it like, what does she need? Okay, what does she need right now? So women describe being with a genuinely present guy as being truly attended to. Okay. The specific sense that everything he's doing is informed by what she's actually experiencing. And here's the thing about women, because I was getting a lot of blowback from feminists over the weekend on Facebook, which is fun because I just doubled down on that shit. I'm like, oh, cool, engagement, sweet. But what's funny is a lot of these women would start commenting on my post, just communicate better, just communicate, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, you know, that would be so awesome if women were any good at communication. But women suck. Women suck at communication. They notoriously suck at communication. Okay, because they instinctively just expect a man to know things, right? They expect a man to just get it and to just be perceptive. If women would be honest, that's what they expect. They expect a guy to just get it, to just know. That's why men get frustrated, because we're like, we can't fucking read minds. Tell us. Okay. But the thing is, women have also been trained that if they tell you that you're not going to be able to handle it, you're going to get up in your feels. You're not going to take the constructive criticism well. So they just shut the fuck up, and they'll fake orgasms to help your ego out or to end the experience. That's what happens. Okay. So communication is never really happening here. So if you don't want that happening, it behooves you as the man to fucking learn what actually her body's doing so you can be more perceptive. Okay. Now, as you sit there right now listening to me, you might find that a specific question about your own situation is beginning to surface. Some of you are serious about getting direct feedback and having me answer your questions. When you fire your question over as a super chat right now, what you're going to notice is that it instantly locks your situation at the top of my screen. It bypasses the regular noise completely in the chat, so we can ensure your problem gets solved live on air. Right there, buddy. All right. So confidence is a multiplier. So here's the thing. This is why the book isn't just about techniques. Okay. If you want a book on if you want a book on positions and technique and stuff like that, I do have a free ebook. You don't necessarily have to go buy the book. You can just get the free ebook. And I talk about the 4 magic sex positions. That's down in the description right now. Okay. But you got to understand that 2 guys can learn the exact same technique. One guy will execute it with calm and focus and be all about her and understand how her body works. The other guy will execute it while half monitoring himself from outside the experience, right? The same technique, but completely different results, because confidence is one skill among many. It's the thing that determines how much of every other skill actually lands when it counts. Okay. And the thing is that women can sense when you're truly confident, when you truly know what you're doing. One way that they'll know that what you're doing is because their body's going to start doing shit that they've never experienced before. They'll be like, what the fuck is happening here? Okay. And then the more you do that kind of stuff, the more your confidence will be built. Okay. Confidence comes from doing. Okay. But a lot of guys, they want to build confidence before they do something. But the thing is that if you're waiting to build confidence, you'll never do the thing. Okay. I want you guys to think about something, right? If you could have more confidence, do you think you would be doing more stuff, making more money, going for more like higher positions, like that kind of stuff? You would probably do that, right? If you had more confidence in yourself, in your ability to go to that next level and do those things, you'd probably do that, right? Okay. But you don't have the confidence, so you don't do it. Okay. Have you ever at any point in your life had something that needed to get done? You didn't quite know how to do it, but you said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to dive in and figure this shit out. Okay. When did the confidence come? It came after you took action and did the thing and got your hands dirty and made mistakes and fucked shit up. And then you slowly got better at it, right? Once you started getting better at it, now it's like no big deal. Okay, think about driving a car. When you first started driving a car, you probably weren't very confident at it. You're probably grinding gears and shit like that, especially if you grew up in a time when manual transmissions were pretty, they were called standard, right? Standard transmission. And you were grinding gears and you were fucking stalling the car out and stuff like that. It was very frustrating and you weren't very confident then. But now, 20 years later, 30 years later, you drive a car and your mind goes elsewhere because you just do it without ever thinking about it. And then you end up at places and you're like, how the fuck did I get here? Right? Because you're so confident at it that you don't have to think about it anymore. That comes from experience. You see? So you'll never start anything if you're waiting to be confident at it. You start doing things, and that's where the confidence comes from. You understand? All right. Now, you can have all the knowledge available and still leave 90% of it unused because your head is working against you the whole time. Okay. We've got a brother in Wolfpack. I'm not gonna name names here, but something came up. It's pretty fascinating because he's reading the book and he's immediately in his head about stuff. He's in his head about a lot of different stuff. One thing he's in his head about is he's tuned into a lot of red pill content. So he's deathly afraid of his wife cheating on him, right? So he's like, I don't even want to go on a business trip because I'm afraid that if I leave that space open, that she's going to cheat on me. Okay, that's one thing. And then 2, he's worried that he has a very low body count because he's one of those guys that got married to his high school sweetheart immediately out of high school. They were together until he was in his mid-30s, went through a divorce, and now he's with his next wife. So he immediately went and got married right away. And so he's got a body count of 2. Okay. Now I'm not shitting on him. I'm not downplaying that. Okay. That's, a lot of Christian guys would probably be in a very similar situation. Okay. There's probably a lot of you guys out there in that situation. It's not a bad thing. I'm not shitting on him for that. But because he has less experience than his current wife, now reading this book, he's like, oh shit. Oh shit. Am I going to ever be able to do this stuff? And so he's immediately all up in his head about whether he's going to be able to do this stuff. He doesn't have the confidence yet, but I'm telling you, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Keep practicing. You're going to get better at it. Then the confidence will come. It doesn't matter what your current body count is. It's the reps. So if you can successfully seduce your wife enough and keep her interested enough to practice this shit, and then the more she gets into it because you're doing better and better and better, and she's having more and more and more orgasms, that's where the confidence is going to come in. It doesn't matter what your previous fucking body count is, okay? So don't get out of that right now. Just worry about doing it. Just follow the book. We're going to talk about it here in a minute. This chapter talks about reading it multiple times, so it becomes a part of who you are. Okay. Now, all my books are like that. All right. Because what we want is to be a guy that's not stuck in his head. Because when a guy is stuck in his head, like my Wolfpack brother, running a constant loop of anxiety because he's only ever been with 2 women his whole life, he ends up leaving 90% of his knowledge on the table. You already know what it's like to watch yourself from the outside, desperately checking her face for a reassurance while your body executes a loop of anxiety. As you've likely realized that trying twice as hard from a position of scarcity is a losing play before the night even starts. But notice what happens when your analytical mind simply relaxes its grip. Your breathing naturally settles into a calm, controlled rhythm. Your internal certainty begins to lock into place, and you find yourself fully present in the moment. Men who take their self-improvement seriously eventually discover that grinding through this solo work hits a hard ceiling. That's exactly why you need to step inside the wolf pack during this brief break. When you join the tribe now, you bypass the generic relationship hacks and gain immediate access to a 24/7 brotherhood of high-caliber men navigating the exact same bottlenecks. Plus, this Thursday is our live monthly video hangout on Telegram. If you want total anonymity, you can keep your camera off, but you will get the direct, raw solutions your situation demands. After your first month inside, the path to winning, overcoming, and holding frame becomes completely obvious to most guys. So stick around. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to go over the illusion of the approval-seeking mindset and how to establish an accurate prize frame. Bear Club? Not anymore.
Wolfpack, you fix what's broken. You lead like a man again. Too sweet. No pity, no therapy. Just fire, just flame. Cold bed, broken home. Midlife drift, feeling alone. You don't need hacks, blogs, lies. You need men with fire in their eyes. We rebuild from the ground up. No excuses, no soft stuff. Telegram lit, 24/7. Brothers locked in, steel, not heaven. Step inside the pack. We don't fall, we attack. Truth, fire, presence, we bring it back. Masculine pride, no time to slack. Step inside the pack. Drop your past, claim your track. No therapy talk, no playing small. We sharpen blades, we take it all.
Oh, hold on a second here. This one, this is weird. Hold on. I got my show notes are all screwed up here. Hold on. Let me just fix this real quick. While I'm doing this, why don't you guys go ahead and talk amongst yourselves? Here, I'll give you a topic. A peanut is neither a pea nor a nut. Discuss. Hold on. I just have like one talking point off here. I don't know why. Here we go. Let me just copy and paste this over here. Boop, there we go. All right, so we're going to talk about the prize frame here in a second. By the way, guys, so we just had our Wolfpack pod class last Saturday, and Brother Kamal and I did it. It was on Advanced Relationship Game, and man, we put on a clinic. Man, we were talking about one of the things that I talk about quite a bit in my books and on the podcast is the Luca model of communication, which I learned from Paul Benjamin of Apex Mindset. He's a friend of mine, and if you guys don't know what Luca stands for, it stands for listen, understand, clarity, action, and it's very similar to what Corey Wayne talks about in How to Be a 3% Man. You know, in his story about throwing walnuts at his girlfriend to get her to open up and talk to him and stuff like that, right? But one of the things that I realized in my NLP training is that there's this technique that we use called echo technique. And if you used echo technique with Luca, you literally start putting your girl into a trance, and now you can start embedding suggestions into the conversation, and it bypasses her critical factor and goes right into her subconscious. And so we talked about that over the weekend, basically how to hypnotize your wife, your girlfriend, so she quits being a fucking bitch, right? So, so if you guys want to join right now, you guys can be there for Thursday's hangout, which is usually pretty casual. We talk about guy stuff, and you know, if anyone has anything heavy going on, we address it there. But usually we just talk about guy shit, UFC fights at the White House and whatever. And then the pod class from Saturday is available until Friday. So if you join now, you can still go and check that out. We put on a fucking clinic. A lot of guys were like, holy shit. One of the brothers in Wolfpack, you know, I asked them after the pod class, they said, okay, who's going to try out echo technique with Luca? And I said, by the way, you can use echo technique without Luca. You can use it at any time. And one of the brothers came back because he had date night with his girl on Saturday night. And he goes, I didn't even realize I was doing it, but holy fuck, you're right. He's like, she was leaning into everything I was saying. It was fucking crazy. I was like, yeah, fucking magic, bro. All right, let's talk about the prize frame. So most guys walk into a bedroom operating from a position of someone who needs to earn something, right? Her approval, her satisfaction, her desire to come back. But that's a losing position before anything starts. And this is what I was talking about before with Dr. Glover's work in No More Mr. Nice Guy and Dating Essentials for Men, because a lot of guys are here, right? They need her buy-in and her approval. And so they want to be a good boy in the bedroom, and it takes her completely out of the experience and puts her in her head when you do that. So you got to break that habit first by being a little bit of a selfish lover for a while. And so just don't focus on her at all and just focus on getting yours. Okay. One of the things that Dr. Glover talks about, he's like, it's every adult's responsibility to make sure they're getting their needs met in the bedroom. Okay. Okay. To a point, but he also talks about being the leader in the relationship and setting the tone and taking the lead. Well, that does carry over to the bedroom. So once you break that unattractive habit of, you know, putting her on a pedestal and stuff like that, now you can start taking the mindset of being the prize. Okay, this is where the mindset of the sexual Tyrannosaurus comes in. Okay. When you've actually put in the work and you know what you're doing, carrying yourself like what you bring, you bring value to the situation, you're not being arrogant. It's just really an accurate assessment. Like, you know what you're doing. You know, you can play her, you can diddle her skittle like a fiddle. Okay. Like, if you know you can do that, you can effectively bring her to orgasm. And like I said, like, the book tells you how to tell she's really having an orgasm. Because most of the time, women put on a fantastic performance, and you will never fucking know based on the stuff that you see in adult films, right? The eye rolls, the screaming and yelling, and then the leg twitches and shit like that. That all can be faked. Okay. And even a woman who is lubricated doesn't necessarily mean anything. Doesn't mean she's having an orgasm at all. It means, like, some women lubricate very easily, but they still don't have an orgasm. You understand? So that doesn't even tell you anything. Okay. But there's one thing that they can't fake. There's one thing that they can't fake. And we'll talk about that in an upcoming episode as we go through this series. Okay. But the guy operating from scarcity, he speeds up when he gets nervous, checks her face constantly for reassurance, not for whether her skin's flushing or not. He's checking for, like, are you doing okay? Like, does it feel good for you? Like, you doing all right? Am I a good boy? and he telegraphs insecurity the whole time he's doing it. Okay. So this puts her in her head. Like, this is going to be a recurring theme. You want to get her out of her head and into her body, feeling the experience, not worrying about whether, oh God, he needs to feel like he's doing good. Okay, well, I'm going to moan now and shit, right? So she picks up on your insecurity very easily. By the way, guys, follow me on social media. Would you? The links are in the description. So you got to detach your ego. You got to detach your ego from the outcome. And this is also a recurring theme in all my books, right? Detaching from outcome. Because, I'm not a Buddhist, but Buddha taught us, years and years ago, thousands of years ago, or whenever he was around, that all human suffering comes from attachment, right? Comes from attachment. And so if you have the attachment that this has to be a stellar experience for her and you every time, you're going to get up in your head about it. Okay. So you've got to detach from the outcome and be okay with whatever happens. If something, especially if you're doing any kind of like anal sex or whatever with her, one thing that I don't discuss it in my book, but Eric Eberhard talks about it in Unleash Your Sexual Superpowers. But he's like, if you're doing that enough, you're eventually going to get shit on. You're eventually going to get shit on if you do that enough. And so the way you handle it in the moment when something like that unexpected negative happens, the way you handle it will either ruin it for her or, and make her never want to do it again and make her get up in her head about it, or it'll be something that's no big deal and you'll keep being able to experience those types of fun things, right? So you've got to let go of any kind of attachment to outcome and just be able to roll with whatever happens. Okay. So when your ego's writing on how every single encounter goes, you stop being present and start keeping score. Her moan is a point. Her silence is a threat to your self-image. You get the idea, right? So accepting that some nights are a 7, some are a 9, without your whole identity shifting based on it, is what lets you actually stay in the experience. One of the things I also talk about in the book that we're going to talk about in the upcoming weeks is that not every time you go in the bedroom has to be a 3-hour long marathon sex session. Not every time. Okay. So don't take all the techniques in the book and be like, okay, we have to do this every time or else she's going to get bored. Okay. Variety is what keeps her guessing. You understand? Variety is what keeps her guessing. If you're doing all the same stuff all the time, that's what creates boredom. So you want to take some of this stuff and apply it some nights, not all of it all the time. You understand? So you want to keep that variety going. And it's okay if you have a quickie here and there. It's okay if, it's okay if you just change things up, right? So accepting that some nights are a 7, some are a 9 without your whole identity shifting based on based on it is what lets you stay in the experience. And the guy who rolls with imperfection without unraveling is more attractive in that moment than the guy who needs every night to be a 10 and tenses up the second something small doesn't happen the way he wants it to go. Right? So this didn't go the way you wanted it. All right, well, I'll do better next time. Okay. You got to have that kind of experience. You got to be able to laugh some stuff off. If something just completely doesn't work, right? And just be able to laugh in the moment. Okay. It's how you handle it that matters. Okay. If you freak out and you get pissed off and you're like, oh, get all down in the dumps or whatever, you're going to make her not enjoy any experiences with you. Okay. You've got to be able to handle anything. All right. This is a large reason why women shit test guys too, right? They want to see how you're going to react in various situations because they want a guy that's solid, that doesn't let things rattle him, okay? You've got to let sex be a place where you're not rattled there either, okay? So preparation is going to kill a lot of your uncertainty. A huge chunk of anxiety in the bedroom comes from not knowing what to do next. Your brain fills the gap with worry, and worry is the enemy of everything that you're trying to do. Because what does it do? What have we been talking about? It puts you in your head, takes you out of the experience. Okay. And when you put yourself in your head and out of the experience, it puts her in her head and out of the experience. It fucks it up for both of you. Okay. So the more you actually know about how women's bodies work and what gets a real response, the less mental space there is for any kind of doubt to take hold in your mind. Okay. And knowledge isn't just information. It makes your movements deliberate instead of hesitant. And she can read that difference before you've done anything. Now, some of the stuff we're talking about in the book, you guys are going to telegraph your insecurity about doing it a little bit. And that's going to take her out of the moment. That's okay. Like I said, let go of your attachment to outcome and just keep practicing. Okay. One of the brothers in Wolfpack was talking about how his relationship's been pretty good, but over the last couple of months, it's starting to cool down, and his wife's being, or not his wife, he's got an LTR that he's been with for 3 years, but she's been sort of pulling back a little bit. The sex has been more and more infrequent, and she's saying how she's tired all the time and stuff like that. And he's going through the book, and I said, how far are you in the book? And like, what's something that really speaks to your current situation? Like, come back with that. And he's like, oh, I'm up to chapter 7. And that's all blowing his mind. Right. And chapter 7's all on dirty talk and getting in her head and creating word pictures, because a woman's arousal, a lot of it's up here. This is the reason why women read cheesy sex novels and stuff like that. They don't typically watch a lot of videos. They do watch videos. There's lots of hub data that shows that women do watch a lot of videos. Guess what kind of videos women typically watch the most? They watch the real domination, women, like almost great fantasy type videos. That's what women watch. Statistically, that's what a vast majority of women watch. Okay. Don't take my word for it. Google it. All right. The feminists are going to lose their mind over that. The data's there. Okay. Go fucking yell into the void. The data's there. Okay. But when women read dirty, cheesy sex novels, what's in those dirty, cheesy sex novels? A dominant guy that's taking what he wants in the bedroom. Read Nancy Friday's book. All those women, like a vast majority of those fantasies were women wanting to be taken by a man. Okay. Now there is some nuance to this. Okay, that doesn't get put out in a blurb on social media that feminists lose their mind over. But the guy that the woman wants to be taken by is a guy that they find sexually attractive. Okay, it's not just any guy. That doesn't mean I've never once said anything that would indicate that a man should go out and sexually assault someone. I've never said that ever. Okay. But that's what women want from a guy that they're in a relationship with that they find sexually attractive. They want a guy that just takes his, okay? That just ravishes her body and stuff like that. That's what all the dirty, cheesy sex novels are about. That's why 50 Shades of Grey sold millions of copies. That's why The Hub shows women overwhelmingly watching great fantasy content, okay? That's what they fantasize about, okay? So, that kind of stuff's important to know. Okay. So how do you handle a bad night? Why did I go off on that tangent? I went off on that tangent. I'm like, how did I, someone tell me where I was going with that. How do you handle a bad night? Okay. So if something doesn't go your way, laugh it off, keep your frame. Making it a big deal is worse than whatever actually happened. And most guys that women fall out of love with, they're very reactive. It doesn't go right. She doesn't orgasm, and she makes the mistake of telling him. Now he's pissed off and angry that he couldn't get the job done. And he's like, well, let's keep going. Let's keep trying. We got to fucking get this. Now you're putting a lot of pressure on her. And now she really doesn't want to do it. Now you're pissed off that you couldn't get the job done. And that's all being shown right now. And it's unattractive behavior. Okay. So all that reaction. So you got to be able to just be like, all right, cool. I'm good for it next time. Right. So she's watching how you handle that more than she's watching the moment herself. You're putting her in her head. Putting her in her head. Right. So a man who stays unfazed when something goes sideways tells her something about who he is that no technique can replicate. This is why frame is so important. Frame is everything. It shows up everywhere. That's why Frame Friday episodes are the most important episodes of the week. Getting your mind right will fix a vast majority of your problems in relationships. And most guys, I can see them in the comments. Them reacting, blowing up about women, getting all pissed off at women in the comments just tells me that they have no frame, right? Like you can absolutely see if I put out any kind of thing and your gut instinct is to be pissed off about it and then let me have it in the comments, you have no frame. And I own you. I own you. And your comments just help boost me in the algorithm. And I'm laughing the whole way. And I might throw a little barb in there to keep you commenting. But that's what I'm doing. You're playing by my rules now. Okay. So you got to be careful of how you're reacting. You want to start learning how to respond and not react. If you guys go back and watch my Heaven or Hell episode, one of the things I talk about is if you can control your state, you control reality. Okay. Yours and hers. Okay. Repetition is how all this gets wired in. So one of the key themes in this book and in all my books, it's something I first learned from Corey Wayne in How to Be a 3% Man, but also I didn't realize it until later. But another mentor of mine, Bob Proctor, also talks about this. Just reading books that you really want to know, books that you want to like just absolutely absorb and master the information. Listening to it on repeat by itself will eventually seep into your subconscious mind. It's a long process though. It's a long process. Takes, you got to listen to at least 10 to 15 times. The reason why is because we only retain about 10% of what we read or listen to. Okay. You might read this book and go, yeah, I got it, but you don't. You have 10% of it. Okay. And when you go back and listen to it again or read it again, you're going to find all sorts of shit that you missed this first time around. I do it constantly. I just started listening to The Game again, a second time around on The Game. And I was listening to it with my son. We were on a road trip, so we were listening to The Game. And there was all sorts of stuff Neil Strauss was talking about that I was like, oh, I didn't catch that he talked about that last time. Right? He mentions Nancy Friday's book in that book. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize he mentioned Nancy Friday's book because I heard about it from Sterling Cooper, right? But it was, he mentions that in that book too. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. But there's all sorts of stuff that you missed the first time around. That's why I strongly encourage you guys to read not just my books, but any book you want to master 10 to 15 times, okay? Just because that repetition will eventually seep in your head. Now, this book doesn't have one, but my Red Pill Guide series books, like on fixing your dead bedroom and getting over a breakup and stuff like that, those have accompanying workbooks, which if you listen to the books on repeat and do the workbooks, that just makes that process much faster because it forces you. One of the brothers in Wolfpack, he's working on the workbook for Get Her to Fuck You Again. And he goes, when I listen to the audiobook, as I'm listening to it, I'm applying whatever you're talking about to my situation, and it kind of clicks in the moment. But then as soon as it's the next chapter, it's out of my head and I forget about it. He goes, but when I sit down and do the workbook, now it's forcing me to dig deep and put it on paper. And he goes, that really fucking cements it. Okay. So I'd recommend you do that. Or another good technique you could do is like, if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription and an Audible subscription, right? You get free credits every month. Just grab at the audio version and grab the Kindle edition. They're both free with your subscription, and read along to the audiobook. And then you can also blast me when I flub up on the audio that doesn't match what's because that happens. Do that one time. I dare you. Read along with one of my audiobooks, and you'll catch more flubs that I've done, or where I've just sort of like paraphrased something instead. You'll catch that shit. It's pretty funny. All right. But reading something once and thinking you got it is how you end up with knowledge you can't access when it actually matters. You're basically mentally masturbating. Okay. The goal isn't to remember what you learned necessarily. It's to absorb it deep enough that it comes out naturally without you having to think about it. Okay. Like, I want you guys to think about driving your car, going back to the car analogy. You drive now without even thinking about it. Right. That's why your mind can go off on tangents and you end up in places and you go, how the fuck did I get here? It's because you've done it so much that your subconscious takes over when you drive, and you're on autopilot and you're not even thinking about it, and you're just going where you're going. Okay. You want to get to a place where where you're a fucking sex god in the bedroom, and it just happens on autopilot because you've made it a part of who you are. Okay. The guys who actually change in this area treat the material like a training manual they return to repeatedly, not something they finish and set down. And that's the difference between an average frustrated guy, an average frustrated chump, and a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus.
This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus, just like me.
That's right. All right, guys, that's all I got for this episode. I really do hope you got something out of it. Get the book. It's way more articulate than today's episode. It's a Monday, guys. Give me a break. Darfin says, get in the wolf pack. Too sweet for that one. He says, framing the encounter as a reward for her helps. Yes, absolutely. Takes you out of the scarcity groveling mindset, kind of like an Uno reverse. Yeah. And that's what the book talks about, right? Like, we're going to get into it in the next couple of chapters, but you want to have the mindset that you're giving her an experience she can't get anywhere else. Okay. That's how you create alpha widows, right? If you can truly give her an experience she can't possibly get anywhere else because of the stuff I talk about in the book. I talk about NLP techniques that anchor her orgasms to you and like specific things that you do or say, so that when you're out and about in town and you want to get her in the mood quickly, you just like pinch her a certain way or you say a certain word and she immediately starts getting wet and wants to fuck. Okay. I talk about that kind of shit in the book. This book is fucking legit, guys. It's fucking legit. It will fucking transform everything in the bedroom. And that is a promise that the book lives up to. All right. We've got guys in the wolf pack who they're already starting to apply the stuff in the book and their wives are completely fucking. There's this one brother who, God, he must have joined 6 months ago. His wife barely wanted to touch him. She was having all sorts of problems. And he's been, he's the guy that I was talking about that's been doing the workbook. So things have been getting better, but then he starts applying the shit from dicker down, right? And now she wants to fuck twice in the morning and stuff now. And he's like, she hasn't done this since we've been married. She's never wanted to be this way. Now she walks up and touches him in the kitchen and stuff like that. He's like, she hasn't done that in fucking years. Okay. Like, this book is legit, guys. I'm not fucking around with this one. All right, guys, that's all I got for this episode. Tune into the podcast tomorrow. We have a really good sponsored episode. So if you are a work from home dad and your wife doesn't work and she like constantly pulls you away from the job to help with the kids and stuff like that, you're going to love this episode. That's tomorrow. This is going to be a short one. It's tomorrow afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern time. But tune into the podcast on Wednesday. We're going to talk about balling on a budget. I had a guy in the comments on one of my videos, I think last week or the week before, and he goes, can you do an episode on dating without money? Because you talk about how women don't really care about money that much. So like, can you do an episode on that? And I replied back going, oh, well, what do you want to know about it? And he never replied back to me. So I'm like, all right, fine, fuck it. I'll just do an episode on what I think guys could use when it comes to dating and how you really don't need a lot of money to attract women. And if you're leading with your wallet, you're going to attract the wrong kind of women. So Wednesday's episode is going to go really into depth on that one. But that's all we got, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit those notifications. I do have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We'll see you next time.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. Now, go out and get it.